and welcome back to AWS On Air. I'm Jenna Pederson. I am joined today by, I have Mike, Nick, and Jonas from the BMW today, and we are going to talk about a little bit about our collaboration with them. So I want to hear, let's talk a little bit about what problem you were trying to solve and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Jenna. So we at BMW, we like to give our customers the freedom of choice. So we like to give them to a certain extent the possibility to configure their cars. Yeah. For example, they have the choice to choose whether they want to have a panoramic roof or not, whether they want to have a big navigation system or not. Yeah. Well, this ends up obviously in all those choices ends up in a big planning process behind it. Yeah.
Sure.
Which means what we need to foresee is how many customers worldwide want to choose this option, panoramic roof. Yeah. And this ends up for us in a so-called take rate, like a percentage of how many customers worldwide take this. Yeah.
Okay.
This goes down to every market, to every detailed level you can imagine planning. And this is a big task ahead, not only for the current cars we have in the market, but even further for the cars in the future. Yeah?
Okay.
So we need to make this forecast 3 to 4 years in advance, not only on the market side for our sales department, but also, this is the connection to the supply chain, we have to tell our suppliers what components and how many of them do we want in 4 years for the new car models. So obviously, it used to be in our organization a strongly manual process, worked very well, but very strongly all markets were involved in the planning process. Yeah.
Okay.
And what we were trying to achieve, or what we try to achieve, and which with this live solution now, where BCG and AWS helped us, we wanted to provide a third opinion to all those experts in the market to make those forecasts, based on a machine learning algorithm. To not only stabilize this planning process, because obviously you can imagine this is kind of hard, yeah. But also to optimize and focus the expert knowledge to those options that are very innovative, that are very hard to forecast, because they've never been sold by us, yeah. Mm-hmm. But for all the other options, like a panoramic roof, we sell years already. We like to optimize this.
Got it. So, Jonas, tell me a little bit about how you all approached solving this problem.
Sure, happy to. So initially what we actually did is that we assembled an interdisciplinary team and made sure that we had all the right experts at the table from the start. So that included the business, it included the dev team, which then further kind of had data scientists from both BMW and from the BCG Gamma side, as well as then the people who will be actually operating the solution, both from the business side and the technical side. And so once we had all the relevant people involved, we went into gathering the business requirements for the solution. So that, for example, addressed what kind of forecast horizon do we actually need to cover with the solution?
Yeah.
What granularity should the tool have in order to be optimally also aligned with the business processes that we were trying to support? For example, do we need separate forecasts, as Mike mentioned, by market, by engine, by body type, or do we actually look for something that's more aggregated in order to also be aligned with the business planning processes? From that, we then moved into a conceptual kind of modeling phase, where we selected the relevant algorithms that we thought would be most conducive for developing the solution. Mm-hmm. And from that, moved on into the feature engineering and model implementation, right? So here we then really, based also on the input from the business expert, engineered the predictive variables or features for the machine learning model that we thought would be relevant for predicting the take rate of future models. Yeah? So that covered things like option characteristics. So do we know how expensive the option will be, how it compares to other options, like what category is it in, the color of it, all these kinds of factors. Then also factors about the model for which we're forecasting, right? So is it an entry-level model?
Yep.
Is it a very high-end model? So that also obviously has relevance for the take rates we're expecting. And then also information about the different markets that we're currently forecasting for, right? Because the model can also learn if it understands, okay, take rates in Switzerland might be similar to Germany, or are they very different? And so we also can actually leverage this cross-learning across different markets, different models, actually in our predictions. Yeah? And so then we tested this all and made sure that the predictions were accurate based on our model testing, and ultimately then implemented it in the AWS cloud for production.
Got it. And when you're talking about markets, you're talking about different regions in the world?
Exactly, yeah. So the BMW kind of then plans the expected demand or take rates by region. And so it's important to understand like what the take rate will be in each of the regions, so that we then also arrive at a accurate forecast on the aggregate level or at the world level for how many of these options BMW needs to procure in order to be optimally covered for the introduction of the new model.
So this algorithm actually gives us such more, way deeper insights based on all our database we already, like all the cars we sold already, yeah? It helps the sales department just to make even more accurate forecasts for every single market in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Nick, can you tell us a little bit about the collaboration with AWS and what worked and what didn't, or how that all worked out?
Yeah, so we basically, I kind of continue from where Jonas ended. Like after the POC phase, we entered the making things production ready with the goal to go live, and therefore we onboarded, or we teamed up with AWS Professional Services. And one great achievement of this collaboration was that actually after 6 months we already had a production live system. And in this phase we also onboarded a new DevOps team that actually then, after AWS left, took over responsibility of further development and maintenance. And it was just great to see how, with AWS together we could fastly build up this application and then also hand the knowledge over to the further provider. And one prerequisite, of course, was at BMW we now have a few years or some years of experience with AWS, and already we are able to create some best practices, and we have all the data already, or big parts of our data that we needed for this use case already in the AWS cloud in our main data hub. And this was kind of a kickstart for a project that we could directly dive into the development with AWS.
Okay. And then let's talk a little bit about the high-level architecture of the solution that you came up with.
Yeah, I think it makes sense because we just have short time, but from a business perspective, we kind of have two interfaces with our application. The first one is the already existing application, so the tool that Mike was describing, where a lot of manual work was required, and we basically just added a minor button that you can request a forecast with.
Okay.
And this kind of is an API interface to AWS. On AWS side, we then build up the API gateway. This triggers a Lambda that takes care of the inference. So this is kind of the inference side. The other interface we have with the business is a Tableau dashboard that actually gives the business unit the possibility to analyze the models that we have, see the accuracy, and also select which model they want to deploy into production. So this is all involved. And maybe one interesting thing, so besides kind of the services you would expect, like having Glue for data processing and all that, we also use Glue for data quality checks. So after the pre-processing phase, we kind of have expectations against the data, and this automated process that makes sure that even though the project, which might run over several years, which is the goal, that we detect changes in the data that we can take action on afterwards, and that it's not just a one-time build, and then after some years, it's kind of we're doing the wrong things because we have wrong assumptions with the data, but it actually we make sure that it keeps up to date.
Got it. Can you tell just real quick a little bit about why you chose these serverless services?
Yeah, for us, I mean, it fitted just very nicely into the requirements we had, like having an API to the business unit. All the decoupling was really great, and also it gives us a big transparency about the steps in our forecasts. Like we can get the payload that they send us into our application. We can see which attributes were requested and all that. So the serverless decoupling makes it very easy to see what's happening in the cloud. It's not like a black box that spits out predictions.
Got it. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers today?
Well, in general, the cooperation with AWS and BCG was on a very high and professional level, yeah? And we'd like to extend that to further project, obviously, at BMW. And we had like great interactions already on the reInvent with AWS, and like, had some sparks about new projects and use cases. So we're looking forward ahead to the future with this cooperation.
Good, excellent. Well, we are at time for today. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Jonas from BCG, Nick and Mike from BMW, and we'll be back in just a moment.